They call it art. The fans, the little monsters, they scream and cry when they see her on stage. Covered in red, drenched in it. They write blogs about the symbolism. They say it represents fame, or sacrifice, or the pain of the artist. The media, they just call it theatrics. They say, oh, it's just corn syrup and red food dye. It's sticky, sure, but it's harmless. I thought so too. God help me. I thought it was just syrup. I was the one who had to scrub the tiles. I was the one who had to unclog the drains after the show. So I should know, right? But corn syrup doesn't smell like copper. Corn syrup doesn't turn black and hard when you leave it out in the air for 10 minutes. It doesn't coagulate. And most importantly, corn syrup doesn't have chunks in it. I found something in the drain that night, in her private suite. It wasn't a prop. It wasn't a piece of a costume. It was a tooth, a human molar, with the root still attached. And it was soft, like it had been boiled. That woman, the one you see on the magazine covers with the glowing skin and the perfect energy, she isn't using makeup to stay young. She is soaking in something else entirely. If you are listening to this, if you have ever been to one of her shows and felt a droplet of that red water hit your face, go to a doctor. Now, check your blood, check your DNA, because I don't think you belong to yourself anymore. It was the job of a lifetime, or so I told myself. I was broke, my student loans were drowning me, and I was living in a shoebox apartment in Queens. So when the agency called me about a specialized hygiene technician role for a massive world tour, I didn't ask questions. The client is extremely high profile, the recruiter said. Her voice was sharp, professional. You will see things that are unconventional, artistic. You need to have a strong stomach. I can handle vomit, I joked. She didn't laugh. It's not vomit you need to worry about, she said. I signed the NDA. It was thick, 50 pages. Buried on page 42, there was a strange clause, Clause 9C. The contractor acknowledges that all biological fluids, synthetic or otherwise, found within the artist's preparation zone are the sole property of the Haas. Removal of any sample, solid or liquid, is a federal crime. I thought it was just legal jargon. Maybe she spit in a cup and they didn't want people selling it on eBay. People are crazy like that. I didn't know biological fluids meant gallons of it. My handler was a woman named Veronica, tall, severe, always wore black gloves. On my first day, backstage at Madison Square Garden, she handed me my uniform. It was a hazmat suit. Not a janitor's uniform, a full-body rubberized hazmat suit. Why do I need this? I asked, struggling with the zipper. Because it stains, Veronica said, and if it touches your skin, it absorbs. You don't want that. The preparation for the show wasn't like anything I'd ever seen. Usually backstage is chaotic. Dancers stretching, makeup artists running around, music blasting. But the hallway leading to her dressing room, the red room, they called it, was dead silent. The floor was covered in plastic sheeting. The walls were draped in black vinyl. 2 hours before the show, the delivery arrived. It wasn't catering. It wasn't costumes. It was 4 men, pushing a heavy industrial cart. On the cart were 6 large stainless steel canisters, like the kind you see in breweries or morgues. They were frosted over, ice cold. There were no labels on them, just a biohazard symbol and a date written in Sharpie: Harvest, 08/01/26. Harvest, I whispered to myself. Veronica appeared behind me, making me jump. Move, she snapped. The temperature is critical. If it warms up above 38 degrees, the enzymes die. I watched them roll the canisters into the red room. I heard the sound of a specialized pump being turned on. Thump, thump, thump. It sounded like a giant heartbeat. Then, the sound of liquid rushing into a tub. But it didn't sound like water. Water splashes. Water is light. This sounded heavy, thick, viscous, glug, glug, slap, like pouring laundry detergent or heavy cream. The smell hit me through the closed door. It was sweet at first, sickly sweet, like rotten hibiscus flowers. But underneath the sweetness, there was iron, the sharp metallic tang of a nosebleed. It coated the back of my throat. I swallowed, trying to get rid of the taste, but it stuck there. I wasn't supposed to see her before the bath. That was the rule. She requires total privacy during the immersion process, Veronica had said, but I made a mistake. I left my cleaning caddy in the hallway, right in the path of the door. I ran back to get it. Just as I bent down to grab the spray bottle, the door to the red room opened. I froze. I tried to make myself invisible. A woman stepped out, or something that looked like a woman. She was wearing a silk robe, but it hung loosely on her frame. I looked at her hands clutching the doorframe. They were ancient. The skin was gray, translucent like onion paper. I could see every blue vein, every tendon. Her knuckles were swollen and knotted with arthritis. She was shaking, vibrating. She turned her head slightly, and I saw her profile. Her cheekbones were sharp enough to cut glass, but the skin sagged around her jaw. Her hair was thin, brittle. She looked like she was 90 years old, dying, withered. She looked like a corpse that had been walking for too long. She coughed, a wet rattling sound, and shuffled back into the room. "Start the pump," she rasped. Her voice sounded like dry leaves scraping on pavement. "I'm empty." The door slammed shut. I stood there, trembling in my hazmat suit. That was Lady Gaga, the pop icon, the energy ball who dances for 3 hours straight in 6-inch heels. That woman couldn't even walk to the bathroom without help. Then, the smell intensified, the pump roared to life, and I heard a splash, a heavy body entering thick liquid, and then, a sigh. Not a sigh of relaxation, a sigh of feeding, a low guttural moan of relief. The show was spectacular. The crowd roared. The music shook the stadium foundation. She was incredible out there, jumping, screaming, bleeding. But I wasn't watching the show. I was waiting by the door of the red room with my bucket and mop. Hygiene protocol, Veronica called it. As soon as the artist left for the stage, dripping wet in that red costume, Veronica pointed at the door. "You have 20 minutes, she said. "Drain the tub, scrub the residue, bag everything, double seal the bags. If you miss a spot, you're fired." I entered the room. The heat hit me first. It was humid, like a sauna. The walls were dripping with condensation, red condensation. The tub, a massive clawfoot porcelain tub, was in the center of the room. It was empty now, except for the residue clinging to the sides. I walked over to it, my boots squelching on the plastic floor. I looked inside. The residue wasn't paint. Paint dries, paint flakes. This stuff was tacky, stringy. It looked like the skin that forms on top of hot milk, but dark crimson. I turned on the hot water to rinse it down. As the water hit the red slime, steam rose up, and the smell, oh God, the smell. It was cooked meat. It was the smell of a butcher shop on a hot day. I scrubbed furiously. I wanted to get out of there. The water swirled down the drain, turning pink, then red, then black, and then it stopped draining. The water level started rising. "Damn it," I whispered. "Don't clog. Not now." I grabbed the plunger. Nothing. I grabbed a wire hanger from the costume rack and straightened it out. I stuck it down the drain hole. I fished around. I felt something hard, something stuck in the pipe. I hooked it and pulled. It came up with a wet schluck sound. I held it up to the light. It was coated in slime, but I wiped it off with my gloved thumb. It was white, hard, enamel, a tooth, a molar. But it wasn't just a tooth. There were bits attached to the root, tiny shreds of pink flesh, and a piece of silver foil, like a wrapper. I dropped it. It clattered in the porcelain tub. "What the hell are you eating?" I whispered. I looked closer at the drain. There was something else caught in the metal grate. I pulled it out. It was a fingernail, painted blue, and a piece of plastic, a fragment of a hospital ID bracelet. I could only read 3 letters. DAO-EA. I stepped back, slipping on the wet floor. This wasn't prop blood. This wasn't special effects. This was soup. This was a spiological broth, and she had been soaking in it, absorbing it. The door opened behind me. I spun around, dropping the wire hanger. It was her. She was back from the first set, a quick costume change. But she wasn't the withered old woman I had seen 2 hours ago. She stood in the doorway, wearing nothing but a towel, and she was glowing, literally glowing. Her skin was plump, rosy, tight, not a wrinkle in sight. Her veins were hidden beneath layers of healthy collagen-rich flesh. Her eyes, they were bright, too bright. Her pupils were dilated, vibrating with energy. She looked like she had just been born, or reborn. She looked at me, then she looked at the tub, then she looked at the tooth sitting in the bottom of the porcelain. I stopped breathing. I waited for her to scream, to call security, to have me killed, but she didn't. She walked over to the tub, her wet feet slapping on the plastic. She reached down with a bare hand. She picked up the tooth. She held it up to the light, inspecting it like a jeweler inspects a diamond. She smiled. Her teeth were perfect, white, sharp. "Poor thing," she whispered. Her voice was smooth now, like velvet. No rasp, no age. He was a donor, a volunteer. He wanted to be part of something bigger. He wanted to be eternal. She looked at me. Her eyes locked onto mine. I felt a pressure in my head, like a migraine starting behind my eyes. "Do you know what fame is, cleaner?" she asked. I shook my head. I couldn't speak. "Fame is consumption," she said. "You consume the audience's love, their time, their money, and eventually, to stay on top, you have to consume their essence." She popped the tooth into her mouth, and she crunched it. Crack. She swallowed it dry. "Clean this up," she said, turning away, "and make sure the next batch is warmer. I hate cold soup." I didn't finish cleaning. I left the bucket. I left the mop. I ran. I ran out the back exit, past the security guards who yelled after me. I tore off the hazmat suit in the alleyway and threw it in a dumpster. I scrubbed my hands until they bled, but I could still smell the iron. I could still smell the soup. I didn't go back to my apartment. I took the first bus to Jersey, then a train to Philly. I live in a basement now. I work cash jobs. I don't watch TV, especially not the music awards. But sometimes, when I'm walking down the street, I see them. The little monsters, teenagers wearing her merchandise.
wearing those shirts with the red splatter paint. They think it's cool. They think it's edgy. They don't know what that red splatter really is. They don't know that their idol, their mother monster, is actually a monster, a vampire who doesn't bite necks, but bathes in the liquefied remains of her biggest fans. I saw a missing persons poster the other day. A young boy, blue fingernails. Last seen near the stadium. I tore it down. I couldn't look at it. If you are listening to this, if you win a backstage pass, if you get invited to a private meet and greet, if they tell you that you have been selected for a special experience, run. Don't go into the red room. Don't sign the NDA. And for God's sake, if she touches you, if a drop of her sweat or that fake blood lands on your skin, scrub it off, burn it off, because she is hungry, and she is always empty.